Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I'm your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to listen. I'm really excited to be here today. I also want to thank Bold Brave Television Network for having me. You know, I have shared in the past that one of the things that I love the most about doing this show is that it has really pushed me to explore and learn more about the amazing world of holistic healing and fine-tune my own practices. Even it's caused me to seek out practitioners of amazing healing arts and seek out incredible guides and spiritual development. And you can be sure that all of these incredible people that I find, I actually utilize their services, and they all help me to grow and expand every day. And I so appreciate that. Now, for many years, I was kind of stuck in a rut, and I would do the same thing day in and day out, over and over and over. You know, maybe you've had that feeling as well. And you know, the rut that I was stuck in, it was not a healthy rut. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't serving me. So, you know, I felt like my life really lacked clarity of direction and purpose, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. So, you know, when this opportunity to do this show kind of dropped into my lap, first I was like, oh my God, that's terrifying. And yes, I'll do it. And I'm so glad I did. It was a very good choice on my part because by way of doing this, I have come to know the most amazing people. And I have one of those incredible, amazing people here with me today. Heather Roan Robbins, choice-based astrologer, has graciously agreed to join us again today, and I so appreciate her. She's been on the show several times before. She's a friend of the show, and I always appreciate everything she has to share with us. She has actually played an instrumental role in helping me to gain an understanding of purpose in my own life. Her astrological readings of my personal chart have provided me with direction and really served to put the pieces of my life together in a manner that I could understand. And then also, you know, it was profoundly validating, first off, and it also provided me direction, you know, what is to come. And all of that was so, so helpful. So, yes, the incredible Heather Roan Robbins is here today to talk about how astrology can do that very same thing for each and every one of you out there. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the amazing and beautiful Heather Roan Robbins, um, I think you should get to know her. She's incredible. She's a gifted, incredibly gifted choice-based astrologer, a spiritual counselor, a ceremonialist, and she is the author of several books, including the book Star Codes, Navigate Your Chart with Choice-Based Astrology, which she's also developed in Star Codes Astro Oracle card deck, and that comes with a guidebook. So this is the kind of information that people like me need. You know, it's kind of like a very easy to read and informative guide for people who aren't well versed in the world of astrology, and I just love it. So let's bring her on and see what she has to say today. It's an absolute honor to welcome back to the show Heather Roan Robbins.
Hello,
Hi.
Tracy. It's so good to be here with you again. Yes.
Thank you for agreeing to be here. I always appreciate all the. I mean, you're just such a wealth of knowledge, and there's so much always to talk about. I mean, we could do a show every single week and it would be something new that's happening in the universe and new information that we can have. Now, I don't know if you recall, Heather, but the last time you were on was at the beginning of the year. And it was the week of, I believe it was the week of the presidential inauguration.
Mhm.
And I referenced the fact in that show that it just felt like there was this air of uncertainty and there was just kind of some fears floating around in the air and whatnot. And it just felt like a really weird time for me. Like the energy of it all felt like a really kind of strange time. And I know that you know me and I don't like to talk about politics, not my thing, but I'm curious to see if any of that has shifted in the last few months. Can you kind of give us an update on the
Well,
universe?
again, I want to come back to choice-based astrology first
Mm.
because
Okay.
it does not, and how that applies to this very situation.
Mm.
When we look at series of planets and aspects, we always have choice about how you live it out. From the
Mhm.
every single planet, every single aspect has patterns. You can out living it out positively,
Mm.
practically, or with the challenge end. We use the
Mhm.
planet Neptune. If it's strong in your chart on the you may live it out, and if you see Neptune in one person's chart, you often see it in a lot of people in the family's chart. And one side of Neptune is spirituality, intuition, creative process, empathy. Neptune is water and liquids and things that flow. Negative Neptune can be escapism, illusion, delusion, alcoholism,
Mm.
addiction. And
Mhm.
that's the same aspect, and you often say it's either spirit or spirits, and how AA uses spirituality and psychic and connection, that kind of group experience, to help overcome negative Neptune. So when we have it in our chart, we have to
Mm.
live it out some way. And we can do it, the fisherman may be living it out one way, or the person who works in water conservation, or the highly intuitive spiritual person, or someone who's having trouble staying sober, and that this helps with
Mm.
this. So when I look at a chart, I don't know which way the country's going to go because we have choice
Mhm.
about how. I had my suspicions about how Trump would live out the transits he was going through, and unfortunately, I
Mm.
think he's doing exactly what we were afraid that he would do. His chart is
Mm.
at a time when it should be introspecting, not dealing with the world, and dealing with kind
Mhm.
of going over history and revenge. It's not sometime that he is aware of what's really going on around him. It's all inner driven.
Mm.
And that could be used very well in another position, but is dangerous in a president. So I'm going to leave it at
Mm.
that. I just saw that our country is going through some cycles, and the
Mhm.
question, and astrologically, one of the outer planets just is shifting this weekend.
Mm.
Saturn. It's not outer. It's takes about 30 years around the zodiac, and it's a regular cycle that we can see in people's lives. And Saturn will be
Mhm.
moving to conjunct Neptune next year, which is helpful for people dealing with addictions, by the way. But it's a it's a kind of a it's an aspect that says who's in charge, what are the rules, and because Saturn is rules and organization and in charge, and Neptune can fog it out, and it's spiritual and intuitive, but it can also blur the edges. And
Mm.
uh, so what are the rule how are we sticking to the Constitution? What are the rules that we agreed on? Who's in charge of what in our world and our government? Um, those are all going to be in question, and it's important for everybody to stay connected to that and be in charge of their own
Mhm.
lives. We can use that in our own life, like what rules, what systems, what habits work for me, and how do I make sure that my life is on good footing, in the
Mhm.
but it can give us some new energy as these 2 planets, Saturn and Neptune, were in Pisces, Saturn for only 2.5 years, Neptune for over a decade. And now they've moved into Aries. They're going to go back into Pisces for the fall, kind of give us a review of uh, what it looks like, and then move forward and then into
Mm.
Aries. So it's a new cycle. They're both planets are moving into the next sign. Now, it's been since was it 1730 the last time in the 1700s, the last time Saturn and Neptune were in the same place in the sign of Aries. And
Mm.
it is before that it was 1308. So it's not that common,
Wow.
and it tends to
Mhm.
bring up a political time of searching for new answers and trying to figure out who's in charge. Um, and
Mm.
but it can help us, for all of us, take new beginnings. There's some kind of fresh energy coming in behind that, which will help us move forward. There's some very enthusiastic aspects going on at the moment that give us, love and passion and caring, but can also make us politically hot under the collar. The sun is
Mm.
still flaring. It's at an unusually active time. And the sun is one thing neither astrologers nor astronomers can really predict. We can think we
Mm.
know where it's going, but the sun is on its own time zone. And lately it's been it tends to get active and then go quiet and then get active and go quiet, roughly 11-year cycles. But it can for the Baroque period, it was very quiet for decades. It was unusually quiet during, the last Trump administration for a longer time. It's hard to get political change going when, the
Mm.
sun is quiet, and we get very active,
Mhm.
like heated popcorn or, jumping beans when the sun is turned up, when the politics and people's lives, we just get very active, and it's been flaring, and it's supposed to not only did it go, a higher cycle than was predicted, it's expected to stay pretty active for a long time now. We don't know how long, but that the cycles will stay more active than they've been for a while. And that
Mm.
just, it's the energy to make good changes. What those changes are is up to us.
So, when you say active, can that also make people like highly emotional at times? Can it influence? And
Absolutely.
I'm just
Also,
wondering
Venus
because
and Mars. Go ahead.
I was just wondering because I was thinking of me last
Mhm.
week, and the on Monday in particular, I was really in my feelings, and and like surprisingly so. And then a couple days went past, and then I was kind of back in them, and I'm like, I wonder what's happening in the universe because this is odd.
Well, the 2 planets that we think of as, there's the sun and moon, which has a lot to do with family, Mercury with our mind, but going farther out. Venus, which always, because it's inside our orbit, rotates around the sun, so we see it only within a few signs of the sun. Mars is the first one that's independent of the sun's action, it moves on its own rhythm. And remember, what we're seeing isn't where, the planets don't back up in the sky, but they can look like they're backing up in the sky because their
Hmm.
orbit and ours aren't in perfect sync. We're off center. And so when they retrograde, they look like they're backing up and they're going back over the same part of the zodiac that we could see. And that kind of gives us a review session during that time. And, Mercury's the only one we really notice when it goes backward. But the when Venus, but Venus and Mars are the 2 emotional signs. And anything you remember from Greek mythology or mythology all around the world, because every mythological system has a version of the planets, what they could see, and has mythical versions, even when they couldn't see the planets, of these archetypes. And and so we learn, a lot by studying archetypes all around the world about what the planets can mean for us. But Venus and Mars in most systems are a little hot-headed. Most of the time Venus is female, but not always. Most of the time, but in Mediterranean mythology, Venus is female, Mars is male. but it's more that the feminine energy within it and that macho energy within all of us because we all have a Venus and Mars. And Venus is now and Mars are both in fire signs. And fire is when planets go into a fire sign, they're like fire. They are quick, fast, they move, they have lots of energy, they peak, they spike quickly, they can burn out, but it's not durability. The earth signs add that durability, but they can hold still. Just like in our ecosystem, we need a balance of all the elements. If you don't have earth,
Mm,
you don't have plants. Plants need the life that we live needs our grounding beneath. It needs the air we breathe. It needs the warmth of and excitement of the sun. It needs the water to make it all come alive. And so each of the planets, each of the signs, and they go, around the zodiac in order of, fire, earth, air, water, all the way around and back and repeating. And those elements, I asked one of my first classes on astrology, I send everybody out
mm,
to think about the elements. What does fire mean to you? How do you react with it?
mm,
What do you think about Earth? What are the best and the worst problems with it? You know, what are the nature of it? Of water? How do you sit? How do you feel when you're watching the water go by, or when you're
mm,
caught in a flood, or when you're
mm,
hungry for water? And the same balance shows up in astrology. That natural understanding of the ecosystem can be reflected there. So it's not so foreign.
mm.
But there is a lot
Wow.
of fire happening right now. It's the sun flaring, but also Venus and Mars and fire signs are making us a little emotional.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. That explains some of what I've been experiencing. I appreciate what you say about the choice based astrology, and that there's both gifts and challenges that come with each sign, because in my mind, when I think of, so when you're going to read a chart, I would provide you the date, the time of my birth, and you map it all out uh, according to my own personal chart. But then uh, I kind of thought at one point, so does that mean everybody who was born on my birth date at that time has like a life similar to me? But there's
No,
so much choice.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I have met people that were born very close to me, and I could say, oh, they're a bit intense. Maybe sometimes I'm a bit too intense. I mean, it was interesting reflection, but we had made very different
Mm,
patterns. Um, One of them, uh, I met somebody introduced me. I was like, "You think you're born?" We were born within an hour of each other, with and a
mm,
state away. And he went to shake my hand. Oh, he said, "Oh, you're a palmist. What do you do with this?" And his hand was missing two fingers. And I looked at that, and thought back to my time. I said, 15. Were you 15 and something blew up? And goes, yes. And I said, I didn't get blown up, it was not a time when I was behaving myself. So I had suspected that that's when it was. But I study palmistry also, and he
mm,
had to work with his hands and learn he was a woodworker that did beautiful work, missing
mm,
fingers. But we are both palm oriented, which was really
mm,
interesting, odd reflection between the two of us. And
mm,
there would be, we were very different people, but and our charts were one house off because of that hour. So
mm,
houses are compartments or stage settings in a chart where I describe it like little houses around a village square, and you're looking in who's in which house. But the houses could talk about where something is going on in your life. Compartments or stage
mm,
settings. And one mine there was an aspect that was happening in my sixth house of health and small animals, and it was a difficult aspect happening in his house of partnership, the next one over. and that morning, I
Mm.
had to break up a dog fight, and I got bit.
Oh.
And I called him up and said, "What happened to you this morning?" Because I was doing my astrological reading. They said, "I broke up with my girlfriend," so we'd both had dealt with it. Mine was in health and small animals, and his was in relationship, but it was so that even that 1 little hour difference shifted, and we both had the choice. Do I wanna break up a
Mm.
dog fight, or do I just wanna see it? Do I wanna did he
Mm.
wanna break up with his girlfriend, or did they just wanna choice
Uh-oh.
and how you handle it? But we both had,
Mm.
"Oh, you're go."
Uh-oh. Oh, it looks like we're cutting out a little bit. Looks like her internet has frozen. Hmm. Okay, well, Caleb, if you're listening, maybe we should break for a commercial real quick and so we can see what happened with her internet. Is that okay?
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to easysense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's easysense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. Sorry about that interruption. We decided to just break for a commercial so we could get back on track here. Sorry about that, Heather. I was asking questions about, astrology happening, the astrology of the moment and whatnot. And I wanted to mention something real quick. I was sometimes when I'm trying to just gain a clear understanding, I'll like Google a definition of
Mhm.
something so I can read what it's about. And I did that with astrology, and it talked about how, let me think, it was it used words like it supposedly guides human
Mhm.
beliefs and behaviors, and it called it pseudoscience, and it stressed that it wasn't scientifically based like astronomy or something. And I when I read that definition, I was like, wow, that's really offensive. Because this is something that is like goes back to ancient times and has guided
It's
people.
it's very hard to prove unless you're looking for correlations. Now,
Mm.
it's interesting, some of the really bad science that's out there now, and it's not real science, it's I think of it as conspiracy theory science. Uh, there was, for instance, the correlation between vaccines and autism. starts a rain thing. But if you see the use of natural foods in autism is the same thing, or the use of Home Depot, it's the same. It's more a sign that we have all been getting busy, and society has advanced, and along with the vaccines came more pollution and everything else that might have something to do with the process, and the testing has become all the variables that we don't understand. And that's one of the tricks in science, is trying to say, what are all the variables? And unless you can prove causality, you can't say it's true. Astrology can't do that. That's not our job. I think of it more as a mythic. We use a scientific framework, the very careful, the details when you talk to astrologers talking to astrologers, it's amazing how many details and little pieces that we've seen
Oh, yeah.
correlate with information that we can be helpful and guiding. But they're creating
Mhm.
maps. We still have to live through those maps. The more you
Mhm.
use astrology, the more likely you are to be um, to be aware of it. I remember Isaac Newton, when Haley was saying, "I don't believe in astrology. How could you believe in astrology?" And I think it was Isaac Newton said, "That's because I have studied it and you have not. And unless
Mm.
you've really paid attention to it, it's hard to believe." But if I write an article called Star Codes that you can find online free, Googling it, and it talks about the astrological weather of each week. And I've been doing that for 30 years, 30 some years,
Mhm.
and it prints in a newspaper in New Mexico, and then it's free online. In that process, I get to predict what's going to happen next week, and I get to see how we live it out. And
Mm.
again, I can't tell you where it's going to happen or what it's going to happen, but I look back at how we lived out those symbols in major events in the world, and I'm pretty impressed that how it works out, how well it
Mm.
does. So that comes back to the place of choice, and that
Mhm.
we live out these symbols. And if you call it a science, I think of it more as an intuitive art. We use the
Mm.
science as a way of understanding what's going on, but it's an intuitive art how you interpret that pattern. And a counseling tool, and how people feel
Mm.
connected to the universe, that it's not just little them, and that once they understand what's going on, it's like somebody sneezing a lot and all of a sudden realizing, yeah, that's because the pine trees are pollinating this week. Oh, and they feel validated. They're not sick. Oh, there's
Mhm.
a reason why. It's part of a bigger pattern. I think of I think astrology can be along that same line, that
I totally
we
agree.
understand. You mentioned about my cards. One reason why I did this deck, and we can
Uh-huh.
pull a few cards later, is that it was my way. People can use it both just like pulling a card. How do I handle this? I handle it like a Capricorn, and then reading in the little book about, what's the gift and what's the challenge of that. Or, how do I use the moon's wisdom to solve the problem? But it also, as you use it as a divination tool, just like, let me try that, you learn all the words, the vocabulary of astrology painlessly. And I find that a
Mhm.
lot of people avoid astrology, the real astrology, because it looks too complicated and there's so many words, and how
Mhm.
could they remember it all? So using the deck naturally helps people uh, pick use it, kind of get comfortable with the terms. And the book
Yeah.
I mentioned, that my Star Codes book, was designed because I was telling my clients the same thing, and I wanted them to be empowered to enter into the field of astrology with real stuff, but not in a
Mhm.
way that was assuming they were about to become an astrologer, but that was really an entrance ramp that kept the concept of choice in there fully in their lives. So that's
Absolutely.
I did those.
Yes, and I so appreciate that because um, I I have been one of those people in the past where I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much to know. How could I learn all of that and then chart it, and it was a bit overwhelming to me. So I really appreciated the simplicity and the guidance that um, that your cards and your guidebook and that provides. I really appreciate
Wonderful.
that.
I'm really glad
Yes,
to hear
yes.
that.
Yeah. So tell me about the astrology at the moment. Like, what can you tell us
Okay.
about?
Um, the Today and tomorrow, for the next 3 days, the sun has just entered Gemini, and I think of the term Gemini is an air sign. It's the last sign of a season, and the last sign of each season is what we call mutable, or it changes. Like, the weather. It's sunny. It hailed yesterday. It's sunny. It's shifting all the time, and the mutable signs, which are the last sign of each season, help us adjust, translate, change, but they can feel a little changeable. But so the sun is in Gemini, which gives us more fluidity. It helps people adjust. There's a reason why school ends and summer season begins under the sun in Gemini. People are moving, they're talking, they're changing, they're visiting old friends. It's communication connected. The sun is Gemini is an air sign, and it's forming a trine to Pluto. And Pluto takes 248 years around the zodiac. It's slow, and it talks about life and death and the deep things and what's important, what matters and what doesn't matter. And who has the deep stuff. So the sun forming a trine, which is a nice sign. It's a buddy aspect. They support each other. They're speaking the same language. And they resonate. They're both in air signs now. So the sun and Pluto forming a trine is asking us to talk about real things for the next few days, to let go of what's not
Mm,
important and be with our
mm,
hearts and sort our priorities and tell the people that we love them. It's just
mm,
kind of feel good about how that system fits. The emotions are strong with Mars and Venus forming a trine in fire signs, the two emotional planets. So that, it's a night if you're lonely and looking for a relationship, this is a good time for meet cutes, get out there, talk to people, and who knows? It's like lots of sparks. If you're
mm,
trying not to fight, if you want to work something out with an ex, and there's still a lot of emotional fuel around, this is probably not the week to do it. There's just a lot of emotional fuel. Yeah, it's like you'd
mm,
either end up back in bed together or you might get in an argument, but it would be emotionally volatile. So,
mm,
but that volatility can do us wonders for like getting enthusiastic projects together or getting little kids on a field trip together. So it can be really positive.
mm,
And the moon changes sign every few days. And again, if you want to know what's happening today, go look up my article, Star Codes. It can help. But the moon
mhm,
went into Aries this morning, so it's bringing new enthusiasm. After a couple of days with the moon in Pisces, the moon can leave us emotionally. It talks about those emotional fluctuations. It's as important as the sun sign when you look at somebody's
mm,
chart. I used to do when I was living in New York for about 6 years, or near New York. I was in New York City every couple times a week, and I would do divination by how people are dressing on the subway. They dressed according to the moon sign. They didn't know it, but, like they've all got, their dark clothes on and the boots and the spikes. Moon's in Scorpio, "Oh, beautiful colors today." Kind of little, pastel for winter. Oh, moon in Aquarius. You could see where that people are feeling very sensitive and a little shy. The moon's been in Pisces for the last few days. So it was funny to watch, just changes the
mm,
milieu, the energy of our environment. And so the moon's in Aries for the
um,
next 2 days. Kind of, if we don't have some place to put this energy, it can be a bit tricky. Now, Mercury, which kind of talks about how we think and communicate, is in Taurus, which is solid and kind of grounded, but it's approaching the planet Uranus. So there might be something you may want. And I always think of Uranus's motto is an old line from Monty Python. And now for something completely different. It can bring shocking news or exciting news, or just make like I'm gonna paint my bookshelves this weekend. I like you just want to move. You want a little different, and that can help us with little differences or big differences. But it may act people may feel a little erratic. I suggest if you decide this weekend that you have to cut your hair off, wait till Monday and think about it again. You know, wait, give it a few days. If you want to do something that isn't that you're not sure or haven't been cooking for a while, let it just try new things, consider it, and then do a feasibility study in a day or two when the dust settles. Mercury is going into Gemini next week, and we're kind of like a buzzy energy. In a couple of days, next week we have a new moon in Gemini, which can help us. Again, a lot of nervous energy. But so watch where your mind goes this week. It can I think of it as the mental hamsters, when your mind just
Mm,
gets so busy and it goes and it wants to chew on something. And if you don't give it something to do, that mental energy can just kind of poke at everything you've ever worried about to make you to just for something
mm,
to do. So if you find yourself worrying about things and it's 2 o'clock in the morning,
mhm,
or you
mm,
can't, there's nothing you can do about it now, or that happened 10 years ago, why are you thinking about it? If you may need to, like, is there something I need to learn from something that happened 10 years ago? Or am I just poking to worry? And my mind needs something good to do. Let me do a puzzle, or let me ponder a spiritual question, or let me think what I'm going to do next on a project, or how would I do that differently next time rather than, oh my God, what did I do 10 years? It's to put you, the mental muscles are going to be very busy this week, and they
mm,
need good things to chew on.
mhm. So
So,
can that feel like overthinking?
yes,
Way
overthinking,
overthinking?
way overthinking. Uh,
So you're talking about the next few days? Is that what you were
the
referencing?
next week, but,
The
in
next week.
various
Okay.
different ways, this next week, kind of watch the overthinking. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Nice.
remember
So
one of my favorite examples of overthinking, it was a little Shetland pony trying to decide either the step was this big out the door, but you saw him kind of like, "Oh, oh, I can't do it," and spinning around and like, "Oh," and then finally he went and he was fine. And I said, "That was such a good example of how we can overthink." And so just notice the overthinking
yes,
tendency,
if you're starting to look like that little Shetland pony.
spinning around like, "Oh,
Yes.
just give it a shot."
So one of the things that's happened in my life is that I had a grandchild born a month ago, and I remember you telling me that the moment of birth, there's an imprint um, that is made, and you described it as kind of like the roadmap for our lives. Then, do I have that right?
Exactly. That when we pop in on Earth, as I think of it, is when our spirit arrives in this body in this lifetime. Where the planets were at the moment you were born, you imprint that pattern, and or
Mm,
you've chosen that pattern, and I don't know which. But that acts as the map for this lifetime. Now, that's not the
mm,
soul that goes from lifetime to lifetime. That's not your choice, that's not divine. There's free will and grace in every moment, but that
mm,
starts the pattern, that where the planets were, and that's when we ask you, what your chart is, what's going on in your chart is you have imprinted that moment. A baby born this
mhm,
week will tend to have a very busy mind and will need to use
mm,
it in good ways and will probably ask questions, a million questions. So you imprint that moment, and we'll always have enthusiasm with that Venus and Mars trine. We'll probably be very busy in a romantic life. So it begins a pattern, and then you imprint the patterns that the planets make in those first few months of your life. That sort of sketches in the big picture of how your life will unfold. Again, you always have choice about how, but there it
right.
is.
Yeah, that is amazing to me. And I know I have had my personal chart read by you, and it was so meaningful and impactful to me that actually I had recorded it. We were in person together, and I had recorded it. And I took my recording, I transcribed the whole thing, and because I wanted to just be reminded, and I wanted to reflect back on it periodically. And I have I have reflected back on it, and it just amazes me because there's things that are happening now in my life that I go back and I look at what you said in my chart reading, and that is now where I'm at, and it it just kind of blows my mind, honestly.
I'm
Some of
so
these
glad
things,
to hear that. Mhm.
yeah, I can. One of the things that you had said, again, without knowing me at all, you're reading my chart. One of the things when you were reading my chart, you had told me, let's see, I wrote it down that you had said that there was something about being a kid that said being visible was not safe. And you even said that safety to me meant being invisible. And you saw that in my chart. I literally spent 3/4 of my life before I had any kind of awareness of that very thing so heavily influencing my life and how things played itself out. So it took me like 40 years to uh, figure out that that was something that I came here to work on and to bring my awareness about it and heal it. And you identified it in like the first 5 minutes of my chart reading. And things like that really blow my mind. Yeah.
And again, I see that in your chart with Neptune in the fourth house and, Pluto, but it's also that you were naturally called to be very visible. You have a Leo rising with Jupiter near the ascendant, that you can take up the space and do this beautiful work. But with Sun and Moon and Mercury all in Aquarius, which really feels responsible for the room, for the community, for the tribe, for the family, for the group, that you would be willing to be visible for the health of your community, because you
Mm,
care about people, not for yourself.
mm,
You wouldn't do it for you. You would do it because you were being helpful. And that was an
mhm,
interesting mix, that you're very sensitive with the Mars and Pisces, so kind of don't
mm,
want to argue, don't want to have a conflict, would rather just like, I'm out of here. Uh, but that's where, part of that is that sensitivity that you grew up around, whether or not how people use their Neptune. Uh, but you have Venus in Capricorn, so there is, even though you're sensitive and you feel everything, there's a determination in you to get somewhere, to help everybody else get somewhere, to see the world improve, and
mm,
that they work interestingly together, those patterns in your chart.
mm,
And again, I I have a chart, but how are you using those charts? That's again because it's free will. Sometimes
mhm,
palmistry can help me see, because the chart is what the universal vehicle, like what are you dealing with in the big picture patterns.
mm,
I and again we talked about how your natal chart is, you imprint that moment and that becomes your musical instrument for this lifetime, your chart.
mm,
Where the
mhm,
transits are now, where the planets are today, how they interact with your natal chart is sort of what's being played on your piano. It's so it
mhm,
can help me to figure out what's being brought up in your life. But you always have free will. Palmistry
mhm,
is more how you feel about your life. The lines change when you change. I don't think palmistry really works to predict your future, but it can help you round yourself out. You can see, oh,
mhm,
I'm way too sensitive, and that's, the trouble is that I'm picking up everybody else's stuff, or I have, it can help you see balances in your life, and it can help me see when I look at somebody's hand how they're working with their chart. or intuition. I sit with you and I could feel some of that. So I can't parse it all out. That's again, is it scientific?
Mm.
Some of it's scientific. We work with
Mhm.
a scientific framework and we weave into that our compassion, our intuition, our understanding of
Mm.
astrology. And I've been doing
Right.
this a long time.
And you're amazing at it. It's definitely your calling, for sure. So, and again, every part of our chart and every sign comes with it has its gifts and it has its
Challenge.
challenges. Yeah, as well. So I have um, read through read through my chart and just at different parts of my life. I One of the things that I noticed recently when I
Mhm.
was reading through it that really resonated with me in this moment. Let's see, um, it was about allowing that I came here to this lifetime to work on allowing energy to flow through me rather than kind of stopping here and coming out of me, giving my energy away in that way. But um, came here to learn how to kind of align myself with and allow my energy to run through me rather than giving it away all the
Mhm.
time.
And then feeling
And
like little you has to do it. Um,
yeah.
when you're letting yourself be a conduit for universal energy, because your chart
Mm.
is so responsible. It wants to fix people, wants to fix everybody. And to use that, but to feel like little your personal life can be a good vehicle, but the energy has to come through you, not from you. And I
Right.
think that that's, sort of whether you line up with the energy or you feel like you have to solve their problem, or can you be
Mhm.
a part of the universal, vessels that help them solve the problem? And
Mm.
that those differences can, push on you.
Right. Yeah. So again, I use myself as an example so that I can demonstrate to people who listen just how meaningful these chart readings can be. I definitely recommend that everybody do it. Um, so we have a few more minutes left in our show. Do you want to pull some cards?
Sure. Do you have a question?
Oh, I have a question. Hmm. What would my question be? Let me think a moment. I think I have a question about the shifts in my professional life. I
Okay.
I am feeling that I need to shift from one way of doing things to another.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question would be, at this moment, like what does that look like for me?
Okay, and I'm going to just pull up your progress chart too so that I have that working with me. Um, and yeah, you've got about 6 months at the there's a lot of changes in the works in good
Mm,
ways.
mhm.
Um, and it looks like you're about 6 months away from the beginning of a new chapter. And,
Okay.
I would talk about those progressions. I mentioned that, when you imprint the moment when you pop in. And then the
Hmm.
planets keep moving and you imprint the pattern that they make for the first few months of your life. And you live that
Hmm.
pattern out, roughly the rate of a year to a day for the rest of your life. Again, with a lot of choice about how. But so there's a relationship between the 10th day of your life and the 10th year. And according to that
Mm.
process, you're at near a progressed lunar new moon, a new moon cycle. And so that's how, the moon takes 28 days around the zodiac. So it's about a 28-year, 29-year cycle
Hmm.
of progressed moon. And you're about 6 months away finishing one 30-year cycle and beginning another one. And often it's hard to get the wind in your sails right before you turn the corner. It's it's because it's at a time when you're reviewing everything that's happened in the last 30 years and
Mm.
you're getting the information from it. I once read for a woman from the Hopi Pueblo in New Mexico who was an artist in Santa Fe. And she said, "Oh, that's the seed sorting time." I said, "Tell me about that." She said, "That's the time at the end of a harvest that you take all your seeds and you say, 'These are the best seeds, and I'm going to save those for the next next planting. These are good seeds, and I'm going to eat them and save them for this year's food. These aren't such great seeds, and I'm going to give them to the turkeys.'" And said, "Yes, that's that's kind of what you're looking at your life, like, what's working? What do I wanna plant in the next round? What am I gonna savor at the moment? What do I need to feed to the turkeys?" And so there's that's kind of where your chart is saying, go through your life and then feel like you can line up. You may not be able to see where it's going for another 6 months. It's like you're coming to a corner and you're gonna turn the corner and everything you know is gonna work, but it's a new landscape, and you'll need new maps, and you'll be able
Mm.
to see around the corner in about 6 months. So, you said there's 2 different ways you're thinking of going, is that?
Oh, I was saying that no, I feel like I know the direction I'm going,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
I'm in a place of needing to make a big shift, stop doing one thing and start doing more of another thing. And
Mhm.
one of the things for me is that letting go is kind of hard for me. Letting go of what I've done for so long is a hard thing, and it can be kind of nerve wracking.
Yep, and again, with first card I pulled was Neptune, and that says you don't it's hard to see where you're going right now. It's a little foggy, but again, when the trick with walking in the fog is to just put one foot in front of the other carefully, watch where you're going. You can see
Mm,
this present moment more clearly than ever. You can see how to handle this situation in your work. More clearly than ever and feel yourself when the fog clears you see where you're going and how you're getting there, but each day you can make clear decisions without so I wouldn't get sad about leaving before you've left. Wait till you leave, like, but what do you need to do to prepare for that? Because the new path looked great. I got um the sun, which is full of life, Sagittarius, which is movement and honesty and freedom, and
mm,
Pisces, sensitivity. So it feels like you're moving out of something over the next few months, over the next 6 months, that you can already see where what's happening, but just be present to what you're doing now to close it up. You're not going to be
mm,
closing any doors from this. It just feels like you're kind of bringing a chapter to a close that you could always open up
mhm,
again if you needed to, that you're going to keep
mm.
those contacts, but that chapter's closing and this exciting new energy is moving forward, and very that looks really all gung-ho.
Beautiful. So, again, thank you for that example. I really want people to um, see how this works and see how meaningful it can be. Because, again, I have truly valued all of your services. We have about 5 more minutes? Is there anything that you'd like
Well,
to
I do want to
leave us with
mention
today?
it was so much fun working with you because I could see you in person. Here, when we moved to Montana, it's been here 8 years. I have very few local clients. So I live on Zoom. I live yeah, and most of my clients are elsewhere and we work on Zoom and it's easy to reach me, rowanrobbins.com. But it's so wonderful when I get to see someone in person. If someone has a pretty kind of what's the meaning of my life questions, the big
Mm-hmm.
questions. I'll sometimes ask them to take photographs with their phone. So easy these days. We used to have to like do ink prints or Xerox hands. Now we just clap pictures of the phone of our hands where there's good enough lighting so you can see the lines and email those to me along with making an appointment. So
Mm.
then I can have that also to refer to. But that's
Mhm.
um, that's what I would say if anybody is interested in astrology, just to find out what the moon sign is in every day. It's easy to find online, and
Mm.
you can or get an astrological calendar, changes signs every 2.5 days, and just watch how people change. Watch how your moods shift.
Mm.
But and just that can help you begin to have a feel for the rhythms of it. I would say the term disaster means against aster, the stars, and we can constellate instead with the stars to work with. I don't think anything should tell us what to do. I remember the teacher Sri Chinmoy, who a Virgo, was a Hindu. He did a philosopher, and he taught a lot about healing and meditation, and was a runner himself. And he even as
Mhm.
an old man, and he would ask his astrologers to tell him what was the worst day to do something, to run a race, or to. He
Mhm.
used the astrologers for the best day for teachings, but for himself, he wanted to prove to people that it doesn't have to stop you, that you can learn to work with it. And he would run a race on the worst day and still manage. That
Mm.
with Mercury retrograde, Mercury turns retrograde 3 times a year for about 3 weeks, and it's not a particularly easy time to travel. You have to kind of map things more carefully and expect a few delays. I almost always have to travel on Mercury retrograde. And so, the astrologer in me would say, "Don't do that," but especially if I'm going back
Mm.
to it's really good to go back to some place that you've known and loved. But if I
Okay.
have to do it, I do it. I just take the precautions, keep be careful about where I put things, and I just do, bring something to read at all times and make the best of
Beautiful.
it.
So those are real practical ways that we can really familiarize ourselves and
Mhm.
get get into all of this. And I appreciate that. We do have a comment who said somebody who put a comment up that said that we had a great talk today. So I'm hoping that that person
Oh,
is really
wonderful.
excited about this and will access your services. We just have a couple, just a not
Mhm.
even a minute left, but can you tell us just briefly how to get a hold of you?
Yes, Rowan Robbins, RoanRobbins.com, or starcodes.us, I think it is. But you can just Google star codes and you will probably find me. And
Nice.
rowanrobbins.com is my website, and it can connect you to the article. I publish on Medium .com from my regular. If you want to join Medium or are on Medium, Star Codes is free. Otherwise, you can find it on Facebook, and I have an Instagram where they take my article and divide it up by days, and
Oh,
so you can just
nice.
read the days aspects. There are a couple of ways of accessing what I have to offer.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I highly recommend you. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure I'll be
Thank you,
calling on
Tracy.
you in the
Wonderful.
future. And it's
Always a
always,
pleasure.
I was just going to say that, always a pleasure to have you. So thank you. We're out of time for today. So you've been watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern.